Good morning. Hey, you guys. Welcome. We're doing a Saturday edition. We rarely do Saturday editions, but here we are today with my buddy Trevor Thibodeau. And say hi, Trevor.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here.
Trevor's, he's amazing. I've known Trevor for, 7, 8 years.
Well, not 5, because I've been on men's team for 7. I just realized, and you came back a year or 2 later. It's 5, 6. Yeah. 5, 6. Yeah.
Cool. And we actually were roommates for a while. And so sometimes we have, we don't always agree.
So that should be good.
we don't always agree. And I think that's pretty cool because, we both, I think, have a passion for sharing, for being in service.
Yeah, I would say, what David and I have in common is being real, and being and caring about the individual person that's out there, and I know David is much better at this than I am in terms of reaching out. He's always calling people, always making contact with people, and I tend to want to hide out more. When I get in my home, I'm going to hide out, and but I do my sharing. I'm working on that part, but I'll do my sharing more so in groups with the enlightenment intensives that I facilitate.
So,
a group person.
Trevor leads enlightenment intensives, and he's going to tell us what that's about in a bit, but I can tell you what I think it's about.
You can tell them what you could do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, if I tell them what I think it's about, you can tell me if I'm.
Well, that's a great way to start, because then because I'm not really good at just without some sort of spark or something to feed off of. So go ahead.
So, it's my imagining that you assemble a group of people. I think you're going to have like 20 plus in this next intensive.
My target is 24. Yeah. We have 6 campers and we have 18 beds in the lodge.
And it's, they call it an intensive because it's fucking intensive.
Yeah, it is. There's I can't remember who said the quote, but it's like, try anything for 3 days, and you have amazing results. And that's what it is. It starts on a Thursday night, an introductory night, and then there's a Monday morning integration. But Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's quarter to 6 till I guess we finish 10:30. So, and it is you're digging a well for the truth of you. You're inquiring into the question of who am I.
So the koan.
The koan is generally who am I. Some people work on what am I. But usually you start with who am I.
So if I asked the question, I would say, tell me who you are.
Yeah, well, because you're working in the dyads, the whole format of enlightenment intensives, or the main practice, is within a dyad.
What's dyad mean?
A dyad is, in simple terms, just 2 people facing one another. There's a communicator and a listener, and the listener will give the construction, tell me who you are. Mm-hmm. And then for 5 minutes, this is the form. It's a little bit boring to talk about, but for 5 minutes, that person has an opportunity to contemplate using a technique that I teach, and then communicate what comes up as a result of contemplating the question, who am I? And that'll go in cycles. Maybe they're contemplate for 2.5 minutes and then express for 2.5 minutes, or maybe they're 30 seconds, however that looks. Then a timed gong rings, and then the other partner says thank you, because they asked them, tell me who you are, and they did that the best they could, and so they thanked them. And that's a complete communication cycle. And then the roles are reversed, and you go back and forth for 5 minutes, each taking turns for a period of 40 minutes. That's a dyad. Mm-hmm. In form. Mm-hmm. Then there's a whole essence of what goes on. A dyad.
Well, I've done it.
Yeah.
And my body gets just tight when you talk about it.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. You see this. It's like that whole thing about, Jesus said it, and the Zen masters say that seek until you find, it's like, but then the other side was like, you find when you stop seeking. Mm-hmm. So I'm really big on the paradox, and it seems to me that the more you start sounding kind of crazy in the paradox, not crazy, but the closer you are to actually saying something that's true, if you're going to try and say something that's true, it sounds paradoxical. So you seek until you just can't seek anymore, and you finally sort of quit seeking, and that's when you're actually available and open to the truth. And you can't make enlightenment happen, it's a gift. But we can put ourselves, in a certain sense, in a place that it's more likely to happen. You can increase your chances, and an enlightenment intensive does do that. And I can't remember how I got onto that, but it was something you said that sparked that whole thing. You know, about like seeking. Anyway, you know, we'll go back to it.
How you've been doing this for quite a while?
Yeah, it's been 17 years since I took my first enlightenment intensive in 2002. Yeah. And that was interesting. You know, and like a lot of people, I think my journey started from a very dark place. Like what happened, I guess, in two things really. I was in a job that I really didn't like and had a very, very unpleasant and even a bit traumatic experience in my workplace. And at the same time, 9/11 took place.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And I started searching for the truth in sort of both ways. It's always the paradox. I'm always fascinated by this. But I started looking for the technical, small t truth. Like, what the hell just happened? Why did these people crash these planes into the buildings? Or is that even what happened? And I was in Castlegar, BC, and I stumbled upon, I went into the video store looking for a tape. Something, at that time was VHS, and something on American foreign policy. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. What the hell just happened? And I was more like, not, why, like I wanted to know why the terrorists, like what was the reason they're so pissed off about, And I stumbled upon Noam Chomsky's Manufacturing Consent, that Noam Chomsky in the media is like the perfect thing to dig into the detailed truth of what's going on the global scene. And I became a bit obsessed about like how messed up it is out there, how twisted the media is shaping the story. As compared to what's really going on behind the scenes between governments and corporations and dictators and foreign lands, et cetera, And then at the same time, I became really depressed. So that was my background. And then, I wasn't getting a lot from that because I didn't have any deeper experience to interpret what Jesus was saying, and I just was stumbling upon this magazine. There's a paperback magazine called Issues in BC. Maybe some of you people are familiar with it. And there was this little ad, who am I? The Enlightenment Intensive. And it was a woman, Josephine Lawless, offering it out in the Okanagan. And she's always said that I'm the only person that ever answered the ad. I'm the only one that ever came from the ad. And I just went. I picked up the phone. I called her. We had a short 20-minute conversation, and she says, "It's about you, and it's about the truth, and that's the way to enlightenment." And it told me about the dyads, and I just jumped. Like I was in a place. It's sort of like always the paradox where I was desperate, but on the other side, the positive. That'd be the shadow side, the desperation. But on the positive side is the hunger. Deep hunger and thirst for the truth. And I went and I had an amazing experience. The first one, there was actually really fired up the truth of how upset I really was about everything in my own life and in the world. And then on my second intensive, it was a much more a deeper enlightenment experience, a direct experience of absolute truth, as we say in that enlightenment intensive language. And it was the union, that experience of being in union was more complete, and I was able to actually integrate and understand it better afterwards. Not that I'm in any way in some sort of steady state these days, but it's an ongoing practice.
So, in my study with Dr. David Hawkins, you've read some Hawkins, haven't you? And he talks about vibration.
Yeah.
So and generally his thought is if we reach the vibration or the level of unconditional love, which is in his scale at 540, that we're pretty fortunate. You know, it's a small percentage to get to unconditional love.
I would think so.
And so, does your idea of enlightenment or awakening or whatever, does it have anything to do with love?
Does it have anything to do with love? Yeah, it certainly does. Well, what comes up for me when you say that is something that's recently come up for me. It was like the doorway to enlightenment, awakening the truth is through the heart. It's always through the heart. It's really interesting on Enlightenment Intensive.
Like physically through the heart?
Well, that's a whole other ball of wax. I think there's there's some connection between, the physical heart and the energetic. There seems to be. It does. I do feel it here. But it's more a heart chakra thing, right? I think. But, I don't know about that. That's a question. Maybe for somebody more into the metaphysics of the body and the energy of it, but back to where it was going, like the heart is through the heart. So there's three basic jobs that I have as a facilitator of Enlightenment Intensives, and that's to teach the technique. Because there's no doctrine of any kind in Enlightenment Intensive. It's just your own. It's very experiential. So teach this technique, help people move through the barriers that will come up as a result of doing the technique, and hold the space, for that whole container to happen in a safe space. But back to the barriers. What's really interesting about the barriers, and these are barriers you can find in any, like, in Buddhism or different various traditions. And they start out usually the mind. We're thinking, we got answers. Who I am is, a good father or whatever the answers are, and then there's sort of an intellectualizing, trying what is the truth, who am I, and you sort of got a big theory about it, and then you work your way through these sort of identifications and mind stuff. Then usually what happens is you move into more of the energetic. It's like the phenomena. People start seeing things, having hallucinations or energetic feelings. The body stuff starts coming up, and all of it.
I've been in that where I almost felt like I was going to pass out, and
I mean, I experiences of feeling like a statue. I remember once I just felt like I was made of rock and stone, and I hadn't moved for the whole dyad except my lips and my eyes, and I was like this. And or feeling light as a feather, or feeling like you have no head. That's a fairly common. I have no head. It's like all sorts of these things, and the whole point is to just express those as they come up and continue to do the technique to go for the absolute truth of who and what we are. Because this is all considered phenomena. But where I was going with this is really interesting, is that through all of that stuff, the one of the last barriers to enlightenment, as we say, is emotions. Such a very ordinary human experience in a way. It is fascinatingly to me, the last sort of stand that Mara takes against us is the emotions. Like, make him angry, make him, and so we have to burst through we work with the emotions, however that looks, eventually arriving at the heart. So there's this whole thing about reactive emotions and from the ego, but then there's this always the paradox, this flip side of, call it divine emotion, like love and heartfelt emotion. And Josephine, my first master that I worked under, used to say, emotions aren't it either, but they're closer. It's like, how can it be closer?
So emotions are closer than the intellect.
Yes, in a very simple way of putting it. The why I sort of laugh at that a little bit is because the truth is obviously, is it anything mystical to say that the truth is simply what is? Is it like, isn't that absolutely logical? I mean, just then you get, well, what is? Well, that's another, like, what is it that is?
Well,
But the truth is just the way it actually is.
the
right?
mind
It's
wanting
the
to
reality.
understand
Right.
is, and of course, as soon as we understand, it's already passed.
Well, that's well.
Or is there any
I think
understanding?
that you can get better at it, and more awake.
Excuse me.
Where
Yep.
that understanding and it can be in line with
Mm-hmm.
the experience itself. So it, like I often hear, people in response to enlightenment intensives, on enlightenment intensives, as soon as because I come along, they haven't said anything for a long time, and I come along and I give them a little nudge, because part of this technique is to communicate.
Yep.
And they, well, as soon as I start talking about it, it goes away. I know. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And this is our task, is to do our best to actually communicate what this thing is, while being fully aware of it, me, and get it across to another so they understand. So then you start to be like sages.
Isn't it the thing that can't be spoken of? Isn't it the peace that passeth all understanding?
Always with the paradox, it's true. But a person can speak the truth of their own experience.
Mm-hmm.
But often we don't. And that's like at the fire the other night, you mentioned, about using I statements rather than you. So anytime we're using the you statement, unless we really are referring to somebody and it's you, but that general way we do it, that's not a true statement. We really mean ourselves, and we're missing that. Or to say that, so a way that people often start communicating on enlightenment intensives is they'll just communicate a thought. So, they let's say they had the thought that, their dad's an asshole. My dad's an asshole. They had this thought, and what they do is they go, my dad's an asshole. And that's not necessarily true. I don't know, but what actually did happen?
Mm-hmm.
What did actually happen in that moment? What actually happened is that the person had the thought or the feeling, and maybe saw their dad in the mind, all of whatever truth of that experience happened, that happened. So what would be true if the person actually said, I just had the thought that my dad's an asshole, and after I had that thought, I had the feeling of anger towards him, and you were trying to just really zone into the accuracy, the precise experience.
True inner dialogue, as opposed to, more personal.
More personal. Yes, it's just simply to express the actual experience that I'm having, moment to moment,
As opposed
to
to
this
you.
other, as opposed to missing the me in it, and missing the what I call the experiential descriptors. So I'm thinking, and it gets to a point where you can either you sort of have an experience and then you come and report it after the fact, but as you get deeper into the practice, you can start to speak right from the moment, almost. So you might start with, I just had the thought that.
So very little lag. We shorten up the lag.
That's right. You shorten up the lag between the expression of what's going on and what's going on.
So when you're in the moment, when you're having the experience, is it not come with bliss?
You mean, so what experience? A direct experience?
Yeah,
or,
of enlightenment, of awakening, of total absolute presence.
That's a good one. Like, I mean, the immediate answer I want to say is yes. But sometimes, it can happen where a person, the bliss is so unusual, so out of their ordinary experience that it's scary for them, and they're uncomfortable. They don't like this. I had they call that a spiritual emergency.
Yeah.
And I think it happens in
Hawkins
life.
talks about a lot of that.
Yeah. I think it happens where people in life are oft, I believe anyways, are misinterpreted as being mentally ill, and they're actually had an awakening, and nobody's understood that.
Nobody knows what to do with it.
Well, they don't even know that they've had an awakening.
Yeah.
The person's crazy. No, they've had an awakening, and they're walking around trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
And they, in the ancient tribal traditions, the shaman would pull the so-called crazy young one aside and say, you're next in line and let's go. You see the other side, they don't. That's why they don't understand your craziness, and I'm going to train you now to understand this stuff that you're seeing or hearing or understanding.
So recently, what's come up for me, my experience is that I've recognized that there is no happiness outside of me. There's nothing that I need to be any more complete than I am.
Yeah.
And I don't need a motorcycle. I don't need a girlfriend. I don't need there's nothing missing.
No.
And it's an amazing feeling that I'm living in. And so I sometimes look at my friends and I think, oh, they're caught in this idea that they need to accomplish.
Yeah. Nothing. I'm not good enough. I don't have enough. That total lack. Mentality.
And even I've been in a discussion with online with some folks around the word desire, and and somebody defended that we need a desire for this and this and this, and I said, well, doesn't desire say that I'm not complete in the moment, and that I need something else to make me more complete?
I always the paradox. I think that there could be desires that are very real, that are true.
I think if they're a natural thing, I had a really big desire on the way in this morning to get here to the bathroom.
That's physical.
I was clearly I came through that
door.
Well,
you could dig into that experience alone and break it down to several levels, because there's a physical feeling.
Yeah.
But then there's the whole mental trip that's going on.
Yeah.
As you're aware that this physical, so you're in all.
So I could be more present in the need to go to the bathroom.
That would be the ideal.
Yes.
You're present. It's okay. I need to go to the bathroom.
And quick.
And it's right. It's not like you're denying the urgency of the situation, but you're not attached to it being different. You don't. You're okay with it being urgent. I think that's. I like to say that. Really the trick is to learn to be okay with not being okay. And when we're okay with uncomfortable experience, then
My other experience is that often we want to change people around us. I've been there. I've been there, and in my last serious relating with the lady, I was there in some ways dishonestly, because I wanted her to be different, and I was waiting for this to happen, when I really woke up, I was angry, but I was more angry with myself, because I played the game again of not accepting that person exactly as she was in that moment, always, and recognizing then, okay, this may never change. So is this what I want to be with?
But really, would you not agree that it wasn't about accepting her just as she is? It was about accepting you as you are, right? Because all we ever have is our subjective experience. That person over there that we're saying is a certain
don't even
way.
really know her.
It's like there's what we're actually experiencing is all the processes, like as physics and biological and all of that, and plus the whole mind game that's telling us stories in the.
So I'm making up shit about her.
You have a perception, some sort of experience of this person, and the experience of wanting something to be different is in here, and so that brings me to something. Really important about the Enlightenment Intensive and this whole, the sole purpose of an Enlightenment Intensive is to give the participant the best possible opportunity at having a direct experience of absolute truth, the deepest direct experience of absolute truth possible. And
so we don't know what that is for.
We don't, and so I start the retreat just by, we do know what, there's that paradox, is that direct experience is the same for everyone, because it's the one, it's that side of the yin yang that is one. So it's everybody has that, we're all one, and then the other side is that, they're all. So each of us has this individual subjective experience. But where I wanted to go is that, like all of this that you're just talking about, being okay with what is, we're talking about it, and that these are the practices, sort of the Dharma, that teaches us to be a certain way, like actually put some effort into being a certain way, because it produces certain results, and where we become unattached and more happy, and etc. But in the direct experience, there's no other option. Like, how could you possibly even engage in some sort of activity to be okay with something when there is no something out there to be okay with? It's all you. If everything is actually me and I am everything, then I can't have any opinion or experience to reject or detach to.
You become one with the moment, one with this instant, one with the now.
Well, it happens in the now, but it's like, it's beyond.
But it includes everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so it includes the now, and the now, there is no past or future, there's only now.
That's right. Even the concept of now is gone. There's no, and it's not like disappearing in a puff of smoke. There's no time anymore. There's just this.
There'd be time no more.
I love the Tao. Out of all the the ancient texts, that the way the Tao Te Ching describes the Tao, for me, is one of the best.
The Tao of now.
Yeah, the Tao, and the Tao is how things happen. I have this really unknown version of the Tao Te Ching. They're not even in print anymore, I don't think. It's the Tao of leadership, which is a great one for our men's community. And right at the beginning, it talks about Tao is a principle. It's not a thing. It's a principle. And then there's process. All there is principle and process, and it's the same thing. All there is the unmanifest and the manifest. And the Tao is that unmanifest, the source, that which everything comes from, returns to, abides in, flows through, is. All of we are that, we are in that, you can't even talk about it, really. And I get that. I'm totally, like, as I'm sitting here, I'm realizing I'm nowhere near it. That's what I feel like. But of course I am. And but this is all just my mind remembering.
Yes.
But I'm not feeling, honestly, the directness in this moment. And as I say that, maybe it starts to come in. And because it's true. Like, if we acknowledge that, man, I'm so unenlightened, then the person might start to get enlightened a little bit. Because they've been, the whole concept of spiritual bypassing starts to come in, and there's a big focus on positivity nowadays, and being, and that is good. Good God, we need that nowadays. I mean, I hardly watch the news at all anymore, but there's just so much negativity that the light workers, so to speak, are doing their job in terms of raising vibration and focusing on positivity. Somewhere in the middle of that,
can I
is
stick
the truth.
a little something right here? Yeah. So one of my imaginings is, and we talked about it just briefly, that there's a few things that can help us be more present. And one was gratitude. Living in gratitude.
Right. It brings you into the heart.
And the other one was service.
Yeah.
Helping others, living a life to be of service, to be a giver.
Yeah.
As opposed to a taker.
Yeah. It's a gift to give. Yeah.
And I think that practicing meditation, having a daily practice, allows us to drop in, and the possibility of letting go, of surrendering into the one.
Surrender is a really good one.
Could happen in meditation, and the other one is the thing that we're talking about is lifelong learning, in a way, because you talk about the books and the
study.
Yes, and it's funny. I had a teacher who said you can't find it by looking for it, but you won't find it if you don't look for it.
That's right.
So those things and how this started. Doing these interviews and all this kind of stuff was that I had this passion to help people create meditation spaces in their homes. You know, and so it's one of the if I in my little philosophy that I've kind of created is you know of those four things: meditation, gratitude, service, and lifelong learning. Meditation is one of the pillars, and so and I think that if we can help, you know, thousands of people, tens of thousands of people create meditation spaces, and they actually having the space then, you know, be involved in a practice, even if it's 10 minutes a day, we lift the vibration of the whole planet.
Yeah.
So that's, you know.
That's a good vision. That's a worthwhile thing to do.
Well, and that's, you know, I mean, what I see you doing is similar. You know, and you know, if you take 24 people and 18 of them have that experience,
well, that would be great. But generally, it's 25 to 33%, which is a very high number.
But according to Hawkins, if they've had the experience, it's really lifted their vibration. And they may never be the same.
Because it blows out your case. You know, I just recently sent out an email about that. There's a great YouTube talk. It's you know, the masters speaking about their awakening experiences. You know, they're telling the story of their awakening. Eckhart Tolle telling his story about how he
park bench.
Yeah, well, he asked himself, how was it? You know, I can't live with myself anymore, and he realized there's two. Well, who's this I that can't live with himself? You know, and that's how it began. You know, and Adyashanti and Muji is really funny one. You know, so it's a video. You can YouTube. It's the awakening of the modern masters.
So it's called the awakening of the modern masters.
No, it's awakening experiences. If you YouTubed, you know, searched masters describing awakening experiences, something like that, you should get it. Yeah.
Have a look at that.
Yeah, it's really fun. But you know what I was getting at there is. You know, the bottom of my email, I got the answer is always both. That's my whatever signature thing, and that's the paradox. I've always struggled with maintaining a daily discipline of meditation. You know, I went to Zen Buddhist monastery. I spent 6 months in Plum Village, community of Thich Nhat Hanh. You know, even there in the morning meditations, it was really hard for me to get up. I always meditated in the evenings and did the sharing circles and a lot of stuff, but I've always struggled with that, and everybody has their own thing, right? They got their own gifts and their own struggles, and that's just one of mine. But the breakthroughs, like some would say, aren't important, and they're just as important as a daily practice, because you could sit there all day long for 20 years if you don't have any idea what it is that you're doing that for, then it's, you know, it can just be basically you're sitting there in thought the whole time, right? So the one of the advantages to a breakthrough experience is that you get a reference point. If you have an actual direct experience, you now have a reference point. Like that's what it is. That's what the truth is. I had that. Even though it's gone now, I'm back in duality.
Yes.
I can remember, in a sense, and you can. It's all you're doing in the first place. It's not like there's no attainment.
So
no attainment.
Do you find it after?
Realize what's already the case. That's
do you
what
find
happens.
it after that people possibly stop taking life so seriously?
It can various ways. Some people take life much more seriously. Some people definitely do. Oh yeah, some people, you know, they sell everything and head out to California. That whole thing that can happen. To change their job, the whole thing.
So
other people completely surrender in the life that they have already and embrace what they have.
Yeah, because it really doesn't matter.
No, well, I mean, but then you get into purpose, because I think that there's something with Jordan Peterson and that whole Western thing, that each of us is here for a very specific reason, to fulfill the grand divine design, and who we are is a vector that's right beside why we're here, and you know, somehow we need to figure out why we're here as much as we need to figure out who we are. I believe that's true, and the why we're here is the action, the who you are is just the beingness of.
So I feel blessed that after all these years, and you've been through some with me around some of the really tough years. You know that that I've found what feels like my purpose.
Yeah.
This whole thing I'm finally coming into, you know, after 40 years of being a spiritual student. You know,
never ends.
But
Never
I feel
ends.
called, though. I'm still a student, of course, and now I'm feeling way more called to give it away.
I can see it in your eyes. There's definitely a light in your eye that wasn't there a couple years ago.
Yeah.
It seems like something's happened. Right on, man. Good. It's great.
It's fun, and it's like, and it's lately the last even a month or so, it's been like exploding. Not that the results are exploding, but the
experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's the real experience of nothing missing. You know.
Yeah.
Like everything is complete, and I'm in the completeness. You know, and not essential to the completeness either. It's just like it's an amazing space to be in right now.
Yeah.
And I have to remember to brush my teeth. You know what I mean? Because it's and it
nothing matters in a way.
There's the practical that and maybe that's I'm actually better at some of the practical. You know, in this state.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's that whole dance. You know, well, that's what I was saying just before we started to talk with what the Zen masters. You know that. Well, Adyashanti tells a story about he went up and. Oh no, it was him telling a story about someone else. But a student goes to the master and said, who I am isn't here. I'm nobody. You're nobody. That's great. And he took a stick, whacked him over the head, and he goes, ouch! And who did that hurt, Mr. Nobody? You know, it's like you snap him back, and it sounds like it's kind of tough love or whatever, but you can't. Well, the Ramana Maharshi story, which is the "Who am I" guy, really, and after he had his big breakthrough, he headed off into a cave, and he was ready to just die, and apparently the bugs were starting to eat his body away. It was awful, and he was just lost in the bliss of union out there, and his mother came, and he wasn't going to move, and then eventually he had the thought that, hey, maybe I could help others with this,
come back and make a difference.
And he got up, and then became the Maharshi that taught for many years, and often taught just by being in silence, but he did say a lot.
Hawkins shares that he had that experience as well, that he had hit a level in the 700 or 800s in his scale, and that it was really a choice whether to come back or not. And that he didn't feel any need to do anything or be anything, or and then he recognized that it was really a call.
The bodhisattva, right? The return to, as long as there are any beings still suffering in duality, I will return to help. So
it's almost with humor and compassion that where I seem to be in the moment, that I'm with people and I see that they're so looking for their happiness outside of them. Do you know what I mean? And it's like. And they have this idea of this changes if she comes back, or if they get a better job, or that they're gonna
just get hooked on an idea, attachment,
and then they'll be happy. And I'm like, come on, guys, it's like if we're not here now, we won't be there then. You know what I mean? This is it, and there's nothing missing, and but I recognize that it's very difficult to see.
It is, what to say about that? I mean, it definitely is difficult to see. People get stuck, and I think that's where the Sangha maybe comes in. Don't call myself a Buddhist, but I love the teachings of Buddha and the Buddhist philosophy.
He's clearly a Buddhist.
The three, really, Jesus is my really, like, I'm not a Christian either, but if I had to forced to pick a favorite, I love the simplicity of what he said.
Yes.
Not the church. Be kind, forgive, love. Like so simple, so incredibly simple. Buddhist teachings are really complicated. Because Buddha lived to be 80-some years old. Very simple in the practice, but there's a lot that was written.
But I like that Jesus said, "I and my Father are one."
Yeah.
Which and that everything that he did we could do or have.
Yeah,
or be.
you will do greater things than I, and and we can get into that whole unknown Jesus, and he was a Buddhist.
Well,
Jesus was a closet Buddhist.
The
he
lost
went and
years.
studied. The lost years when he went over.
I have that book. Maybe
I have it too.
Yeah.
The Russian author Natovich went over.
Yeah.
And but where were we going there? Backing up, but the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, like you need community to help shake you out of the stuck spots, right? You can't do it alone.
Trevor's good at that.
Yeah. Maybe it's a pretty powerful Zen stick at times, and it's not, I don't know. It's not necessarily a good thing. Like some, that can come from reactivity, but sometimes it's the truth. The truth is, I'm absolutely fucking fed up with this experience of you, and I will let you know if I feel that there's enough trust and love. And that one experience in our kitchen, that we had, and people.
We used to live
I
together.
need
We were
more
buddies.
of that. Frankly, I should beware what I say. I could use more of that coming back at me. Somebody got to have the balls to really tell me, to stop the nonsense that I'm up to. And that would probably help. I don't know. I mean,
okay,
what I asked for.
Make a note of that. Make a note of that. So
Mira does okay from time to time. With
Mira,
that.
you're listening. She is here.
Yeah.
Hi, love. We love you.
Hi.
So, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So, there's the experience that you're talking about, the enlightenment experience, but folks are coming because they want to have that experience, and even if they have no idea what that experience is,
they come for various reasons, but
and so there's no hanging on to the experience.
No, an attempt to do that would make it go away, all the paradox, but it might go anyways.
And so, but let's say somebody comes, and I come. Let's say I come and I have the experience. So, and I leave there somewhat at a higher vibration.
Yeah.
So, would you have any tips for people to how to, to stay at a higher vibration?
What comes up right now as you say that is, it's my own experience. That be aware of how clever and sneaky the mind can be in, like, planting a little seed. Like, I really want a big bag of Mrs. Vicky's salt and vinegar chips, or I want
Mrs. Vicky's.
Yeah. Or whatever, starting with those sort of more intense things like, a sexual experience or drugs, alcohol, or moving outward to I want that person, relationships, I want that job.
So isn't every I want taking us out of the moment?
Well, that's what I say. So but what I'm, like, when you come from, you leave an intensive and you've had a breakthrough and you're at that higher vibration, that so-called I want will start with nothing more than a blip of a little thought in the mind that doesn't have much more power than passing by a sign that's pointing at some town that's 5 miles off the highway or whatever, and it's of no significance really to you on your journey down this highway. But it's because we've been to that little town so many times, that bag of chips, or that person that we're attached to, whatever it is, like some that it's the danger there is that we just fall in that groove again and follow it. And I think the tip there would be to really just realize when that thought pops up, like, not just actually the content. You could just ignore it. There's many ways you could just, like the sword of wisdom, as they say, just cut it off and just put it aside. But you could also look, well, there's that thought with the same old content, same old story, I want the bag of chips. But what else in that experience is happening? The thought is like so vague. It is so light in terms of it has no energy behind it, and that there's me, the conscious one, that happened to notice that, that is perfectly okay with everything as it is and has no desire for that, really. There's actually there's no desire going on. There's no wanting the bag of chips that's even happened yet.
But then it grows.
It's just a thought that you had. But then if you have the bag, you might even, some people, this has happened often, they start eating the bag of chips and they're like, gross, and throw it out. They don't really want it. And the breakthrough's been that strong that they've blown out that case. But in some cases, they might work their way halfway through the bag of chips, and then they don't like it, and then suddenly they start liking it again, and then they're back in the. So the answer is to just, and there's no answer. I don't have the answer, but it's just what came up for me. Be conscious and aware of making those same old choices that you don't really even want to make. It's just a thought, and do the thing like meditate every day.
Okay, meditation. Yeah, I find that one of the things that brings me more into the moment than almost anything else is prayer.
Yeah, well, it's the talk. You put up a post recently, prayers that speaking to God, meditation to listening to God.
And what happens for me with prayer is usually comes with some humility.
Yeah.
And when I'm in a bit of a humbled state, when I'm in prayer, I'm recognizing that there is a universal intelligence, or that there is something outside of my little ego.
Yes.
That I'm acknowledging.
I'm glad you put it that way. Outside your little ego. It's not outside of you.
No,
really.
But I'm acknowledging from this place that there is something, and right away, I'm in another state. So
it's a little directed to that.
It's not that I'm asking for some gift that puts me in the new state. The gift comes in the prayer.
Yeah.
And it's it's really quite amazing. And so the bag of chips, or the hit of cocaine, or the innocent,
even just a phone call to some person that you're attached to liking you. Any simple thing. It doesn't have to be some big heavy addiction.
No, it can take us out of the moment. And I think, in my experience, that most of the relationships I've been in have been like that. In my love relationships, I've been there, somewhat dishonestly, needing or wanting something, and it's I feel like today I'm in this amazing place of, if I'm ever actually in another kind of a love relationship, it would be, I imagine it quite different. In a not needing place, or being aware of the possibility of being there not needing. Or not needing her to need me.
Right. Well, I certainly wish that for you when the time is right.
Yeah, thank you. Because it's an area that's has the greatest possibility, in a way, to be present. And
what comes up for me is that that sounds very ideal, right? The ideal relationship, and yet for other people, that their ideal might not look like that, right? I think there's a lot of confusion in that in spirituality nowadays. Is that it's it needs to be always peace and calm and zen.
Well, I'm not talking about peace and calm. I'm just talking about that I feel like I was immature.
Right.
And I've been immature in relationship, looking for somebody to look after me.
Got it.
Emotionally, or and to fill some emptiness.
So you're just there out of choice, and because there's joy that you find in it, rather than some sort of
could wake up every morning and choose to be there.
Desire,
that
choosing joy as opposed to choosing someone that can fill your void. Right.
And which may
what time is it? I'm sorry.
May have been me looking sometimes for an idea of security,
Yeah.
or I don't know what time
My
it is.
work flip phone.
We
10
start.
to 12.
We're-
We'll come up here pretty soon.
We are. Look.
Yeah, almost at an hour.
Look. Are we?
Yeah, we started around 11.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I see.
Yeah. Mira's probably out there saying, "Okay, that's enough. Enough. People won't watch."
So, do you have any questions, any thoughts for Trevor? He's going to lead this intensive. There's going to be, it'll be full. It'll sell out. There's no question. When is it? May?
Yeah, May 30th to June 3rd. It's going to be in Lazy M Lodge, which is near Caroline, Alberta. It's a 2-hour drive away. Really nice spot with a river running right through the property and the nice.
But you don't get to go to the river because you're in the intensive all the time.
No, you do. We have 2 1-hour walking contemplations a day.
Okay.
The walking, honestly, I mean, everybody's different, but my, breakthroughs, and I haven't had that many, but it seems like the ones that I had were just whatever, for whatever reason, they really got me and then called me to do this. This is a calling, really, more than I do this because I can't not do it. I just feel like I got it. It's something that's pulling me to do it. But the walking contemplations, and the just walking to the bathroom or eating the food. That's often when the breakthroughs happen for people. It's just in the in between times, because on an enlightenment intensive, it isn't that there's a practice period and then you take a break. Every single moment, for at least those 72 hours, those Friday to Sunday night, but actually it even starts Thursday right to Monday. Every single moment you're asked to stay with yourself, to stay with your question, to contemplate the cone. Who am I? What am I? In some cases, for some people who have done many intensives or just other work or whatever the case, sometimes I will it'll be okay with somebody working on another question. What is love? What is life? So just that's out there. But yeah, every single moment is contemplation, and that's the key. I recently took the Vipassana retreat, and what was it? The key to success is the continuation of practice, or something like that. The continuity, like it's just ongoing being with oneself in every moment, and until there's no self being with oneself, it's just self.
Just the one.
Just the one, yeah. And that just like tripping over something. And
in meditation here, we do a meditation class on Monday evenings. It's a Monday at 7:30 or 6:30. Sorry, we have like a meditation group, and lots of times the very first time meditators come, and it's sweet. And I talk to them about the mind,
right?
And because a lot of times they're afraid what's going to happen in meditation, and I tell them that the mind is a tool, and its job, its perceived job, is to look after us.
Yeah, keep us alive and safe.
So it's always rushing around, looking for problems.
That's right. Yeah, it's just looking for snakes, as Jordan Peterson is saying. Looking for snakes, looking for fruit.
Yeah, and so keep us safe and keep us fed.
Yeah,
and keep us loved and keep us secure, keep us whatever, and so it's a practice of maybe saying to the mind, and often what happens in the meditation is the newbie says, well, who's talking to the mind? Because they thought they were the mind.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you often get that.
And then the beginning of realization starts to happen.
The first. That's right. That's interesting. The first step, is to become aware of the identification with mind.
Yes.
And at that point, there can be the first.
So I tell them, you tell your mind that it's safe.
Yeah.
We're just going to take a break for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that we'll be back, and just explain to your mind that it's safe and we're here. The place is okay.
Explain to your mind like a friend. Your mind is your friend.
Yeah.
That whole thing about the mind bad. It's all bad. That's not.
No, its job is to make sure that I, weight my bum. and, and brush my teeth, and, take care of things.
Take the Priya. Mira's just finished caring for these two little kids. The story about the wiping the bum and the silly mind. She understands that she has a mind, and that's not her.
Oh, the little girl says.
Yeah,
Mira
nice. Taught her that. Yeah.
Sure. So it's amazing because it begins the new journey of, if I'm not my mind, then who am I?
That's right. And who am I? Yeah. So
and that's where you come in.
That's it's fundamental to that. If you read, many people I'm sure have read that question, who am I, seems to be at the bottom of it. Every spiritual tradition comes down to that.
I remember can I tell a quick story?
Yeah.
In the 94, 95, I came back from Bali. I'd been there with Paul Lowe, and we'd done some of this work.
Paul Lowe, yeah.
And we'd done some of this work, and Regan was at the table, and Regan was probably 2 or 3. And I shared the question. There was a table full of people, and I shared the question, and there was silence.
Who am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Regan said, I am myself.
Yeah, they got it. They haven't lost it yet,
I am myself.
They haven't forgotten. He still remembers.
And everybody went, whoa.
Yeah, from the mouths of babes, as they say. Yeah.
And anyway, it was a moment. It was one of those weld spot moments for me. And
a little woke you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been I needed waking up.
Thank you for sharing that story. Yeah. Children.
I am myself. And wow. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for the work you're doing. I believe you could be doing this full time. There's enough depth in this work to you could be doing talks on a regular basis, and you could be doing this full time.
Thank you. Yeah. Selling is not my strong point. I'm working on Mira's really helped me with that a lot.
Mira, he could be doing this full time. Oh, Mira's putting some links on here. Thank you, Mira. That's awesome. We'll also put them on the, James, who works with me, will put them, on the whole link. But it's great to have them in the comments as well. And thanks. Mira's doing her marketing. It's great.
I'm sure she is. Yeah. So anyway, CalgaryEnlightenmentIntensive.com is the website, and lots of information there. You can register there. For any first timer.
Should they call you?
Yeah. We need to talk. It's it's just standard procedure sort of thing to begin a relationship, and just to make sure it's right for you and
build trust.
Build trust and make sure that it's almost for everyone. But there's some people it may be best that they do other things first, or and so that's all. It'll be a conversation we'll have, and but for many people, whether it be spiritual, teachers themselves of different traditions, which sometimes can be more of a challenge because you got to let that go and come into a new thing. But many of my mentors and teachers that I know, yoga masters, different things. There's Aikido masters. They will include enlightenment intensives in their programs as a part. It's just to, have these breakthroughs to help the other practice to enhance their other practices. So it's open, like all people, teachers from all traditions would find a lot of benefit from this, but also just your average person on the street who doesn't have a lot of meditation practice. This is a great way to begin, because as Westerners in particular, we have trouble sitting still and being silent, most of us, and we are social beings. And I really believe that Enlightenment Intensive is a thing that's happening. It's 50 years old. It's around the world. Hundreds of thousands of people in tens of countries. I don't know how many now. From Australia, Singapore, Europe, Asia, everywhere. And where was I going with that? It's everywhere around the world. It's for the Westerner thing that we are in relationship. The very fact that we are in the manifest universe means that we are in relationship, because there's that otherness. something else. We're in duality. And so we return to the duality of the dyad for the sake of venturing out on this aim to
Find the one.
union again. And it's a beautiful, beautiful experience, heart-opening.
Nice. I would say that you're committed.
I you know.
Yeah, you love doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my thing.
Thanks so much for for risking, for caring, for bringing your love and your big stick sometimes. And I love you. Appreciate you.
Love you too, David. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, you guys. Check us out on YouTube as well. Subscribe, and we love you. And if you have any questions, just put them on at any time, and Trevor will have access to be able to go back and answer questions or chat with you. I'm sure he's going to put this on his page as well. And cheers. Have a great day. And Michelle, will you come and turn this off? We James went away today, so Michelle's going to turn off the camera. Just hit it. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much.
That's it. Just, yeah. And then share. The blue button says share.